Welcome to another episode of Everything Intellectual Property. Today, we have a very special guest with us. This woman is simply put amazing. She makes products that make everyday life that much more easier. She was able to go on the hit show Shark Tank and secure a deal for one of her products, and she's been featured on media outlets such as Oprah, Black Enterprise, and Forbes. Please help me welcome the CEO and founder of Rock Innovations, Raquel Graham. How is it going, Raquel?
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. It took a minute, but I'm here.
No, it definitely took a minute, but I'm glad that you've made it and I was able to kind of sit down and talk to you. I think the audience would definitely enjoy this one. You're definitely a rock star, and man, you have had an amazing journey as I kind of prepped for this interview and kind of looking at the different things you've been a part of. And it wasn't an easy journey, but you definitely have a resilience about you that I'm sure we'll get off into as things go on. I know I was talking offline a little bit about the origin of the podcast, and I know my big introduction or first introduction to you was on Shark Tank. So I was going to see if you can maybe describe your, the product of Shark Tank, and we'll get off into the scarf, which is next, which kind of inspired, the innovation overall. But can you talk a little bit about and describe the product, headlights, and maybe the motivation or inspiration behind that?
Sure, yeah. So Headlights is a hat with a removable and rechargeable LED light.
And yep, I have it up there.
Yeah. So this last year, I just came out with a version for kids. And that it was inspired by the fact that I'm a runner. And when I lived in Chicago, although it gets dark everywhere during the winter months in Chicago, it gets dark like by 3:30. It's crazy. And so I'm not a morning runner. I would really run at the end of the day once I picked up my kids to decompress, and it would be just so dark. So at the time, there were only headlamps, which really, they are not really functional, when you're running, but also it didn't look good. So I was just, in the process of coming up with an idea where I could keep my head warm and see where I was going. And come to find out, after launching the product, although it was created more for recreation, it turned out that I've shifted the pitch just as much for safety, because it's really not just about you seeing where you're going, but it's about people seeing you as well.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So it took off, and that is the product that I featured on Shark Tank, and that secured a deal.
Nice. So, and I thought, and we'll get more off into just the IP side of things a little later, but I think it's maybe important, just I guess as an IP attorney, as a patent attorney myself, to kind of let the crowd know, because you talked about you had a headlamp, which maybe was out there, but it didn't get the job done for your purposes. You still were able to create something. A lot of people think that patents, you have to have just this groundbreaking idea.
No.
And to a certain extent, yours was different, really different compared to what was out there. But it was still something that, even though it was an incremental improvement, which a lot of patents are incremental improvement compared to what's out there, we were able to still take that, get a patent on it, and really create a business off of it, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah. It is, so all of my inventions or creations or innovations are really inspired by my life, first of all. So I don't sit and think about what the world needs. It's usually there's frustration. If I need it, and I research. If it's out there and it needs to be improved, I'll do that. Or so far, it really hasn't been out there, right? And then I make it. And so far, my products, my needs have resonated with, the audience, and clearly they need it too, right? Sure. And they're all pretty much things that you need. You're basic, like no rocket science, right? It just makes your life easier.
For sure.
That's really it.
Yep. And I think that's a good point, because a lot of times people have these problems or issues that they're going through on a day-to-day basis, and they oftentimes come up with solutions to the problem. And one of the things that hey, I'm doing this kind of for my own problem, but as you kind of peel back the onion, you will understand that other people share these same problems.
Same. I mean, if you look at Shark Tank, that's It's really what it is. I
Yep.
mean, everyone had a problem,
Yep.
figured out how to bring it to market, and that, the market will let you know
Yep.
if it's a good idea or not.
It definitely will let you know whether it's a good idea. But I think, especially in this day and age where I guess people are not, I guess 30, 40 years ago, people were maybe understood or expected to work at one job for 30 years and kind of ride that out. But it seems like kind of these days with kind of more freedom of movement between jobs and whatnot. And you almost kind of need a second income with inflation and all these things.
Absolutely.
I just think, and again, I know you give back a lot to kind of young girls in Chicago as far as kind of your dreams and, being entrepreneurs and things like that. I just think everybody in general should kind of really look at this, really take a close look at just, intellectual property and business. Heck, your business doesn't have to be just so gigantic to the point where you're going on and selling millions upon millions of dollars. I've helped people patents and start businesses where they're making $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, and they can do that for the length of the patent, and that is still life changing and gives you a sense of freedom that and
not only that, I mean, you can also just go and sell a product, a source of product that is, and know how to market it and sell it. And right. So there's so many ways. And that is what I teach. I started a pilot program in Chicago with Girls Inc. And what I tell them, because what I find is there are really no outlets for product development.
Absolutely.
It just really doesn't exist. So I'm actually going to be creating my own e-class, et cetera. Because if I had $1 for everybody who asked me how to, they have this idea, but they don't know what the next step is or how to, I can go on and on and on and on and on.
For sure.
And I really like helping people, but I can't do the one-on-ones.
Absolutely.
Right? And they're just some basic things that I think will help. And then I'll take on one-on-ones, but I can't do, So when I'm teaching the girls, which is really funny because I know they don't get what I'm saying, but what I say to them is, because it's product development, but it's also entrepreneurship, right? And I say, as young girls, this may not make sense to you now, but as you get older, because what this afforded me to do, which is what I wanted to do, was to raise my kids.
Nice.
And be there. I have 2 athletes. So I never have a weekend. I never have time for myself. So as you get older, to me, entrepreneurship is freedom.
Yep, absolutely.
Hands down. Especially for a woman, when you have to juggle the kids and you may, whatever you choose to do. If you have a corporate job, it can be your side hustle. If you're a teenager, it's your side hustle. You can, when you have babies, you can stop your job and you can still do so. Do it whatever you want, but it gives you options. This may not make sense to you now, but trust me, it makes a difference.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. You're 100% right with that.
So tying that in with entrepreneurship, just for them to, because I think it's important with the digital economy, there's so many ways to have a second hustle.
Yep.
Right. And product development and IP is just one of many. So it's something that, I believe you can't know what you don't see. Right. So it's important for them.
No, for sure. I agree with you 100%, especially as a Black woman. And again, I have a daughter, and just for her, it's one thing coming from me as a male and as her father, but just to see other Black women, doing something that is not often talked about, that is not often done, and be able to kind of look at that and see that representation.
Right.
That's going to be huge for just, Black girls growing up.
Right. Especially for me, I'm in an interesting space. Like I just soft launched an ultrasonic mop, right? Yep. So I have like 20 things that I can launch easily. And so for me, I start from zero every time because this is not my background at all. Yep. Like I never had anything in retail and IP and production, manufacturing. I'm a marketer. So it's just important for people to know that you don't need to have the background. And for me to carve a space is interesting because, the type of products that get the most amount of attention, I find, in the Black space are makeup, food, So beauty, food, and what's the other one? Food, makeup, and hair.
Yep.
And hair, right? So when you're outside of that, you kind of like, where do you fit? Where do you fit? Because you know what I mean? Yep. So, but plenty of room for all of us. And this is why, I want more people to come out with their genius, whatever it is.
Yep, absolutely. And you talked about it a little bit in terms of you having that marketing background in advertising. And I know that's kind of extensive. How has that helped you in this journey? Because hopefully you're developing a skill. I'm talking to the audience, developing a skill that you're, fine tuning and perfecting over time. Again, my skill was, I have an engineering degree, I have a law degree. So just kind of developing those skills and perfecting those. And hopefully at some point, for example, if I come up with a product, I can be able to kind of leverage those skills to help me in some capacity with the product and a business, if that's the way I choose to go. So for you in starting Rock Innovations, how has having that marketing background, how has that helped you kind of market the company? Because I remember watching a Shark Tank episode, and I know the panel, they were just like floored in disbelief because you are essentially a marketing machine doing all this stuff yourself.
Right.
I would imagine that's in part because of that background in marketing.
Right. Yeah. Well, what's unique about being I'm a marketing strategist. What's unique about it and what's great about it is that because I developed the product and I know the need for it, I immediately know how to market it,
yep.
Which is usually a little backwards because usually you develop the product and then you start to think about who and yep. where, what, right?
Yep.
I'm the complete opposite. So by the time I think of it, I know exactly who needs this and how to, right?
Sure.
What
yep.
I don't know is how to make the product. That's the difference. Like I have no idea how to make this product, but I know it can be made. So I just have to figure that piece out,
yep.
So that's really the plus and the minus of it, right? That I know exactly how to do it, but then I just have to figure out how to make the product.
And how do you typically solve for that? I have this woman right now that I'm kind of coaching through the process. She has a social work background, and I'm helping her kind of go through the process with one of her products. And I'm kind of really starting from ground zero in terms of, hey, you need to go to a draftsman to get engineering drawings so that you can not only use for the patent, but also for a manufacturer to manufacture the product, and really kind of going through those steps from ground zero. And, it's going to be at, some point in terms of being able to find someone to help her make the product. So I guess how do you kind of solve for that, since, like you said, that's not your background?
That comes from experience, right? And it's trial and error, because whoever I'm using now as a factory,
yep,
that wasn't the case for the mom. It's not going to be the case for the next. I plan on launching three new products by Q1, two by Q4, and the third by Q1, right? They're all going to be different factories. But what I want to say to your audience is, no matter what your background is, it does not matter what job you have had. You will utilize every skill I don't care if you worked in fast food, if you were a janitor, if it does not matter. Every bit of knowledge you have in your brain will be used in entrepreneurship, because it requires everything you have, because you're problem solving everything. There is no playbook. There is no how to be an entrepreneur, right? We all have similar problems, but they all look different. But it is problem solving on steroids every day. That's just what it is. So you'd be surprised. Like I know postage like the back of my hand. Because I started my own warehouse to solve the fulfillment cost issue, right? So I taught myself all the stuff with how to do the shipping and freight and all of that stuff. I'm a believer in doing it all yourself first before you can hire, right? Because then you thoroughly understand what it takes, how long it should take. Because if you're just hiring, you hand off your business so early, you're going to it's not going to go well.
Right.
That's
People will take advantage of you. People will take advantage of your, just kind of.
You don't know how long. I mean, if they can just sell you anything. Now, I'm not saying you need to be doing it. I'm not a fan of that.
Right.
That's not what I'm saying.
Yep.
But in the beginning, if you're in a new, you have to gut it out.
Yep.
That's kind of what you have to do.
But and I think that's important in terms of gutting it out, because typically, and you have alluded to it just so far, is that, hey, entrepreneurs typically have more than one product that they have or more than one idea that they want to come out with. And to the extent that you're able to gut it out and go through that whole process and say that takes you 2, 3, 4 years, the next time around for the next product, hopefully the time it takes to come out is shortened because you've been through things before.
Exactly.
So you don't have to take as long. And I think that's a great thing about going through it yourself and going through the process, is that the next time around, because there most likely will be a next time, it's not going to take you as long, and you can hopefully get the product to the market.
Even if it's not a new product, it could be an iteration of the product, right?
For sure.
My first product, headlights, started as one product. I'm like 8 iterations in.
Nice.
Right? So, but they're all not, each one still takes a lot of work to get out.
For sure.
Right? But it's minimized because I know, you either establish your vendors, you establish people that you trust. All of that takes time. All of that takes time.
Yep. And I even like what you said about just because I went to this company for this one product to get it manufactured, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm gonna use them for the next product. It's kind of a fluid thing where, hey, you look at the best possible situations based on that product for that product, and you kind of go from there. So I like that. I think the other
thing is that I'm a strong believer in, not just with manufacturing, but anyone who's selling you that they're great at so many things is not great at that many things, right? So over time, you will begin to figure out who is really stellar at what.
For sure.
And you use them for that. They're stellar at that. You go to someone else who's stellar at that. But no one's stellar at 12 things.
Yeah, I definitely.
They'll swear. They'll fight you to tell you that they are, but they're not.
I definitely agree with that. So I guess maybe moving on to the IP side of things, and I guess this is where my background is in, that I've been doing for almost 10 years. I know when you started the company Next, which was the scarf, and you, interestingly enough, did that, again, solving a problem for your kids not wanting to wear scarves. What made you think, okay, or did you even know about IP? I'm not sure if that was something that you encountered a lot based on your marketing background, but a lot of people, like I said, I come across, they have no idea about not only IP, but how to navigate those waters. So a lot of times they go to Google and try to go through it that way. And unfortunately, a lot of people, particularly from Shark Tank that I have on here, they have some horror stories in terms of trying to navigate those IP waters early on, and they end up getting bit a few times because they didn't know and maybe work with the wrong counsel, or the communication between them and counsel wasn't that good. So they kind of really learned through the fire. What was your first introduction to IP, and how and did you know about it already as you were having a patent?
I knew very little, meaning that I knew patents existed.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yep.
That was the extent of it. I knew that you had to protect your product.
For sure.
Right.
Yep.
What I will say off the bat is that it might be 1% who can navigate and handle their own IP. IP is the first thing you vend out. Yep. You find the best to handle your IP. I'm in it. I have patents, and it is so complicated. It is just so complicated to understand that I can't imagine why you would spend your time trying to really understand the entire expertise.
For sure. Yeah.
Right.
It's impossible. It's
impossible.
Yep.
So what you do spend your time on is working and researching, working your network or researching who is great at it.
For sure.
And then that's who you go with.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
But to just, and then you want to Google, you might want to Google, different cases or see what you can learn about it from experiences and stuff like that.
Yep.
But to pursue it, this is the common conversation I have with my IP lawyer. I need you to talk to me like I'm in the 3rd grade.
Break it down. Break it down.
Do not send me that 60-page document.
Yep.
It's very difficult.
Yep. No, and I understand that. And a lot of times, because I work a lot of times from startups to Fortune 500 companies and engineers who are, kind of smart people at these Fortune 500 companies. I'll send them a draft patent application, and they're like, "Hey, I don't understand that language. The drawings look good, so go ahead with it."
Right.
It's a complete different language that we
Completely.
Yep. And
Completely. Yeah.
I guess how often? Because again, it's good patents out there and it's bad patents, and I would imagine that from an investor standpoint, I'm not sure. I mean, obviously you had the Shark Tank situation, but outside of that, I'm not sure how much do you seek from outside investors or third parties investors as opposed to you just kind of funding yourself in-house. But to the extent that you use outside or third party investors, how important is maybe not only having a patent, but are they looking at the quality of the patent and see does it have the claims have some teeth to it? Because again, like I said, it's bad patents that you can have a patent, but it's not worth the paper that it's printed on based on
right.
the narrowness or the limit.
Right. No, I haven't had that experience.
Okay.
Where it's the patent itself is fine tooth, But what I find is for what we do, we will amend and continue to improve, make adjustments, because I feel like IP is it's like the Hunger Games. People that are in it, people are looking at your stuff, and it's really,
and that's a great point that I don't think I ever talked about on here, but I have had work with companies and it happens like this all the time. Like you said, it's the Hunger Games where people, they'll send me, I'll be kind of with some engineers and they'll have a patent for a competitor and they're like, "Hey, we're trying to get around this patent. We're trying to develop a product that's going to get around this patent." So it is, and that's why it's important to have to the best extent possible, a quality patent where it's kind of tough to get around. Not saying it's impossible, but it's tougher to get around based on
the challenge with that is usually it's so costly, right? I mean,
so how do you balance it?
It's so here's a strategy that I use.
Okay.
I usually, I have tons of products, right? Yep. I hold on to products until I can be a big first mover. And what I mean by a big first mover, that means I'm going to be on Home Shopping, or it's going to be on Oprah, or it's going to be something like that, so that I at least can make some noise when I come out with it, that I did it, right? Yep. But and for a very long time, I did not want to go on Shark Tank because I knew that people just sit at home and depend in larger, deeper pockets. And this is a thing where people do watch it and then just come out with it. Because once again, you can do really well with a product that's not patented.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You can, but that workaround that people actually sit and create patents to circumvent your patent is a real thing.
Yep.
And I don't know how much you can really do about that. Because then it just becomes a deep pocket thing. How much do you have?
Yep.
Right? Think of a corporation who sees your stuff, because I'm in that position right now. Soft launching what I just did, I was like, oh my God, because it's not even out there. And I can think of some companies right now that in 2 weeks, they can kill me.
Yep.
Right? Because they have the resources and they can look at mine and then just circumvent. And here's the other thing that it's always mind blowing to me, because it's really just a matter of time, right? Some of the strongest brands, like you look at Dyson, right? Now you have vacuums with the similar shape, right? There is this brand called Stashers. I love them. They're like these plastic silicone looking baggies. Just the other day, I saw a whole new brand that looks just like that. It's not, so even when I look at it, I'm like, wow, so what? How did this happen? The Roomba, right? The Roomba was its own. Now you got tons of vacuums rolling around.
Yep.
You see what I mean? It's
sure.
I just but what I know is Roomba was the first.
Yep.
Right? Dyson was the first. That's what you want to do. You want to at least be first. That's the name, right? You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's the way I look at it.
Well, yeah, for sure. And I think that's a point well taken. And I think a lot of times when you're where you are the first, it kind of provides opportunities in terms of other companies licensing the ability to sell it under their brand from you, because they can still come out essentially with the same thing. And if they do have a license agreement with you, at least you're benefiting from that aspect of it. So I guess there's a lot of different ways to go about it. I know you talked about Shark Tank, and again, not only with Shark Tank, but even with Kickstarter. When you have stuff on Kickstarter, companies are scouring Kickstarter to try to come up with copycats or things like that.
That's right.
So I think that's worth putting out as well. But as far as the Shark Tank situation, what made you say, okay, it's time to take this to Shark Tank?
Well, first, that was my second time trying. A lot of people, I tried with Next, and I made it a few rounds.
Yep.
And I didn't make it. Then I decided that I didn't want to do it. And so I didn't try. So I gave up because, to be honest, in my mind, what I thought happened as Shark Tank has become more popular, I think in the beginning it was really only, I could be wrong. In the beginning, I think it was only Lori who had deep relationships with HSN and QVC.
Yep.
And now I think all of them they're all on it. Not all, like not Mark, but I know Damon's on it. Kevin's on it, And so I thought that, I'm coming on 9 years now on HSN.
Wow.
So I thought that since that was something that they offered and it was a big carrot, that I already had that. So that might kind of put me at a disadvantage. So now during the pandemic, the producers reached out to me.
Really?
I didn't even, and here's the thing, I almost didn't open the email because you get also a lot of soliciting and all of that, like Shark Tank related, but fake, And so I decided to open it, and I didn't get back to them for like a week.
Really?
Yeah, I know that's kind of because I had already made my mind up that like I'm not going through this again because I already have HSN, and then it's going to be like a thing, and right. And so I got on the phone with the executive producer actually, and I said to him, I said, "Listen, is this an issue that And he said, "No, that's where I found you. I was
going to say, I would imagine that they found you off of HSN and reach out."
That's exactly. It did. I didn't connect the dots, but that's where they found me. No. So I said, all right. I'll submit. And then it just went from there. Yeah.
Nice. So I guess in terms of, as far as on the show, how intense was it actually just kind of being on the show?
Intense. Intense.
Nice.
Yeah. I will say I will never, ever regret. I mean, it was hard.
Yep.
Right. But it was good hard. It forced you, at least me, right? Because everyone does different. And if you looked at my episode, you could tell like it was a rough episode, right? But I knew my stuff.
Yep.
So my preparation was for real. I'm like, I may not get a deal, but you're not going to get me I'm not going to not get a deal because I don't know my stuff.
Exactly.
It could be anything else. You don't like the product, whatever, but I'm going to know my numbers.
For sure.
So the preparation and the learning the pitch and all of that, it's real work. Yep. It's real work. Yep. I would never I wouldn't trade it for the world though. So one of a kind experience. How many people know a Shark Tank who's been on Shark Tank, two, who's gotten a deal on Shark Tank? Yep. It's just one of those life experiences that's, even if you don't get a deal, it's worth it.
For sure.
How many people can do that?
Not that many.
Right?
Yeah. Not that many. And I was interviewing actually someone yesterday, Draft Top, who was on Shark Tank, and they were
Draft Top. I know that brand. Draft Top.
I think I've had a number of interviews this week. Draft Top was yesterday. Nightcap it was on Tuesday, and maybe it was a nightcap it where they make essentially it's like a scrunchie for your wrist, but it also doubles as like a cover for your drink when you go out and things like that.
Yes, they're fantastic. Yes, I saw them. They're phenomenal. Great idea.
And he was telling me that they did it during the pandemic and they had to quarantine for, I think, maybe 2 weeks or so, and kind of going to your point
So
about
did-
the preparation, they were like every day preparing for the interview. He said he watched like every episode of Shark Tank up until that point, just trying to think of what questions they may ask me so I can be prepared
Same.
for it. So it seems like it was, man, that preparation process was maybe
prep.
just as intense.
Now, obviously, not everybody does it, which you can tell on the show, right? When you don't know your cogs, you don't know your whatever. So it's really individual. You're not required to do it. You're not required, right? It's up to you how you want to go down on TV. You figure it out.
Now, one of the things, and this is a patent attorney, I mean, I know that this thing is a 50-minute or an hour that they're grilling you, and it kind of gets condensed into an hour episode. But one of the things that I thought was interesting that I guess as a patent attorney, I thought was BS, frankly, because I know Lori is typically the one that's asking about patents, and she asks about, hey, why is it taking your patent so long? Then I think kind of Damien, he piggybacked off that and said, hey, I think you're going to maybe have issues based on, it hasn't been issued in a certain amount of time. Right. I think that's BS because, number one, that's not even a question that the founder or the inventor would know. That's really a patent attorney question, because if somebody was to ask me that, I'm going to say, hey, unfortunately, USPTO has different art units that are backlogged. And as a result of that, it's going to take longer for you to get that office action. Obviously, yours was one of them, because I now looked up the patent. You had the patent term adjusted where they adjusted your expiration date because of, it was almost a year, 342 days, I think, because of their delays at the patent office. That had nothing to do with you.
You are one. I wish I had. So let me tell you,
but they tried to make it seem like it was something wrong with your product, which I didn't like that. And I want the audience to know that just because you don't, I have a product right now for a startup company that I'm doing, and it's been 2 years, a little bit over 2 years. And typically you're going to get an office action maybe within a year and a half to 2 years. It can be shorter or a little longer. But just because it's just a long time before you heard from the patent office, that doesn't necessarily mean that's an issue. That just means that either it's kind of backlogged, which again, you can get time added on to your patent as a result of that, or it's kind of going back and forth in prosecution if you're trying to refight for it.
I think at that point, I think Mark did jump in. Mark jumped in.
Okay.
But you're 1 trillion% right, because during that time, what I should have said, which I wouldn't have been able to repeat all of what you said, but what I should have said was that this was around COVID. So
and that's another
right?
Exactly. And that's
just period. You're
talking about the federal government who's already slowing in of itself. You're putting on a pandemic.
Right.
They're going to almost, you're absolutely right.
And so it's so funny. True story. I literally almost fired my patent attorney.
Really? I have to hear this one.
I almost fired my attorney because they convinced me, and he said the exact thing that you did.
Hold on.
First of all, they know that it takes this long.
So the short time was had you fire your attorney as a result of that.
They had me convinced.
And that's why when I'm looking at that episode, I'm like, oh, that's completely BS, because that has nothing to do with you or the attorney. That's the USPTO. That's great. Yeah, that's.
By the way, I got the patent. By the way.
And it was adjusted, so it was extended. Typically, your patent is good for 20 years from the filing date. However, if it's delays as a result of the patent office fault, they will extend your patent based on the delays on their part. And like I said, yours was extended almost a year, 342 days. So that just goes to show you the delay on their part. It was the USPTO's fault in the extent of their delay if they almost extended your patent for a year based on their delay. So that's just one of the things that. But I bring that up because
it's a show.
Yep.
Right.
But again, that's still, you almost fired your patent attorney as a result of that. So it's like that's not something that. I mean, again, I know it's a show and they need ratings and entertainment, but I just wanted to correct that because I'm like that isn't your fault or the patent attorney fault. That's squarely on the USPTO.
Right? Because I also got reamed for being a solo, for being just a one person, right? And then I've seen other shows where it's like, oh my God, you do all of that yourself.
You're amazing.
Right. And for me, I was like, suppose you get hit by a truck. Then
it's like some weird scenarios. Like like I said, I try to do these Shark Tank breakdown or reaction videos and watch a lot of Shark Tank, and I've never had that comment of like, okay, you're a one-man band. What if you get hit by, like, what's that?
Right.
Yeah,
So when I'm saying, I always tell people, if you haven't seen my episode, it's an episode.
It was intense. It was an intense episode.
It was intense.
So how did things, because it seems like regardless of whether you get a deal or not on Shark Tank, it seems like sales kind of explode based on the airing of the show.
Yeah.
Did you experience that?
Oh yeah,
before?
definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah. And it's an easy product. I was proud of the pitch.
No.
And it's a great product.
No.
Well priced. So, and everyone needs, it's hands-free lighting.
Yep.
That's what it is. So yeah, I think the show, I think it's just amazing. Like I love, and the truth is what I tell folks all the time is the success of the show has to do with the desire of the people watching it.
Yep.
Everybody has this dream. Yep. It does not matter what the product is. Everybody can relate to this scenario. You almost went bankrupt. You blah, blah, blah. Sure. Something bad happened, which resulted in that. It is the ultimate, like, American dream,
sure.
Triumph, small guy winning,
Yep.
And that's what resonates.
Yep, for sure. And again, yep, and I definitely agree with that. People look at you all on the show and they see themselves in it like, okay, if they did it, I can do it as well.
Right.
But it seems like oftentimes, and maybe it does more than I think, but it seems like oftentimes I would like to see even more people, especially Black men and women, kind of go after this, because I think we're creative people, and a lot of times we're creating, brilliant ideas, maybe as a result of not having the money to buy the real thing, or
that's it exactly.
And it's like, hey,
I find those the most,
yeah,
right? Which is, to be honest, which is why I'm going to create this e-class. Like that's part of a mission for me. Like I love it. And going back to the digital economy, it does not have to be something that's patented. Yep. It can be something, it could be special. I've seen people make serious money on a special kind of hair clip.
Yep.
The hair, a hair thing that looked like jewelry years ago became a whole thing because a scrunchie had some jewels in it, and it became, if you put it out there. Now, I'm one of the top Black-owned businesses on Amazon.
Nice. And
Amazon, you can say what you want about Amazon. Like, I'm not here to defend, like none of that, but it is amazing.
I think, frankly, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It is amazing what you can move on there. You know what I mean? Volume or just thing.
Yep.
Or just the thing that you can move on there. Yep. So I highly encourage it. What I want to do is I want to help the people who don't have a business degree, because I believe, especially in our community, that poverty breeds the best ingenuity out there.
Hey, I 100% agree.
Right? So that's where I want to be. That's interesting to me to see. And not only there, but I think about it in all countries. The poor, unfortunately, it's the innovation that helps you survive. Yep. But it's freaking great. Have you ever seen the guy? I just saved it the other day, and offline I'll send it to you. The guy who made, you had to have seen it. The guy who made the smoker out of the file cabinet. I think in Harlem.
I haven't saw that. No, you definitely have to see. I have not seen that.
It's a smoker. He turned an old file cabinet into a smoker, and as he opens each drawer, it's like the ribs are in there, the this and that is in there, and it's just phenomenal. Like that, you know what I mean? It's just that excites me.
Yep.
More than anything.
And again, now it's like, okay, let's try to take that next step to try to, number one, protect it if it can be protected, but also try to sell it, because you never know what that can turn into. With that's kind of.
But not only that, when you look at when someone does that, what they have to do on the back end, their brain, right? Yep. They may not be able to do a PowerPoint presentation.
It's creative. They have a creative brain.
That man, to make that work, to even think of it, it's just, that's where my love is. That's where I'm headed. I got to get through. I got to go up a little bit more, but that's where I'm headed.
I like that. I like that. What would you say was your biggest breakthrough? Because again, you've been, especially on a number of shows, whether it was Oprah, The View, Good Morning America, Fox, Forbes, Black Enterprise, obviously Shark Tank. What would you say was the biggest breakthrough with your with the business?
Well, define breakthrough.
In terms of maybe putting it, where you seen, I guess, an uptick, or like the sales. I don't want to say the sales went through the roof, but people were buying it at a level to the point where you're like, okay.
Let's just say this. There are a couple of important, each of them served a different purpose.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
But what I will say, when I go back, because my company hit 10 years this year.
Which is 10 years. That's legit.
You too?
That's legit.
So, when I go back and look at, say, my business plan from, say, 12 years ago, right? I had a fantasy page of just spitballing. Like, wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great? Right? It included HSN. It included Oprah. It included the Good Morning America. And little by little, I've hit all of them. It's fascinating when I go back and look.
Amazing. That's
right?
amazing.
To see what I just fantasized about. Right? So HSN was huge for me. Huge, because I grew up on it. I love HSN. Like, I'm one of those people that happens to love home shopping. That stuff, say what you want. The numbers coming out of HSN, it might be, after the pandemic, Amazon kind of ate everybody between, because everyone's, then Walmart, et cetera, they started to dive into the e-commerce space.
Yep.
But prior to that, HSN and QVC, and they still are top dogs.
Yeah, for sure.
They're just not sexy for our community.
Yep.
But I knew that the numbers coming at, it's like, what people don't understand is those folks, including me, when I watch it, they come to shop. You
They're coming with a purpose. They're not just coming for entertainment. They're trying to get something.
It's their entertainment, but they're coming to buy.
Yep.
It's like, let me see. When I go to HSN, this would be my big joke, when you have to get your makeup done, and in the makeup room there is surrounded by all TVs because you're looking at all the shows, right? Yeah. By the time I'm a pro, by the time I leave that makeup room, I done bought 5 things already.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Every time.
That's hilarious.
Right? So HSN it's hard to get into, but it's harder to stay. Yeah. It is one of the places I tell folks, it is number driven completely. Like, it is, no one's looking, it could be Beyonce. If that product ain't moving, you got to go.
You won't be back.
Which is why you'll see a lot of celebrities come and go, because it's numbers, right? They're giving you airtime. You better do something with that airtime.
Nice.
To be on Oprah's list, nothing like it. Nothing like it, right? That will boost, listen, but the difference with Oprah now, Oprah validates it in a way because she has the truth stamp.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yep.
So it's about volume, but it's now you are a trusted brand. I got you. So that's invaluable, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's the Shark Tank, which is just like, to this day, I am shocked at how many people just love the show. There are sometimes I feel when people hear that I was on Shark Tank, it's just fascinating to me. Like, I would not react that way to anyone. I don't care. Right.
You're like a celebrity at that point.
I'm talking about across the board. Yep. Black people, white men in particular. It is like the NFL. I mean, it's crazy.
That's crazy. Yep.
Yeah. No, which shows that it's a big dream of people. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. So then I guess on the flip side of it, because we understand that business is not just a linear thing, but it can be up and down. What would you say was one of the most challenging points or challenging periods as it relates to, getting through hurdles or roadblocks or whatever the case may be? What would you say is one of those to share?
Easy. It's all money. It's all access to capital.
Yep.
I mean, the stats are the stats. No matter what, no matter how well you do, women, Black women, the stats are the stats.
Right.
0.3 for Black women, under 2% for minorities of that period. Right. So the challenge is, as I've grown, it costs to scale.
Yep.
Right. So I've been forced to stack things as opposed to do things simultaneously. Like it's a new product a year. And now I've finally gotten to the point where I think I'm going to be able to push out a whole bunch.
Nice.
Because I haven't really had a failure yet, right?
Yes,
so now
yep.
I have much more of a proof, not just a proof of concept, but a proof of brand success.
You have the credibility now as somebody who's continued to deliver those results. So that, and I guess, man, this is interesting as far as how would you say this has changed your life? Because it seems like coming from the marketing, that background, had a cushy job and, decided to do something else. And it seems like even though you have had challenges at different points throughout the last 10 years, you still seem upbeat and like this has been like a game changer, or you're happy that you kind of got into it 10 years ago as far as this entrepreneurship, selling products and all that. So would you say this has been life changer, so to speak, in terms
Best thing ever.
Nice.
Best thing ever. Now, I like to say to people, like, first of all, this is not for everybody. And just because it's not for everybody doesn't mean that you're less than, right? Yep. Because we need our corporate warriors going, right? Which I don't want to be, but you have the stomach to do it, right? Entrepreneurship is a form of, it's almost like you're crazy, like we're a crazy cult, right? You like a certain amount of abuse. You have to have the stomach for it.
Yeah.
And it's, for me, but my goals were kind of different, right? My number one goal was to be able to have a job, to be able to be there for my kids as they grew up. Nice. That was it wasn't money. Yeah. It was being able to make enough money as a job to be able to pick them up, to go to every game, to have summers with them. That was my goal.
Got you.
And I just had to hang on. It's been, the highs are high and the lows are, the lows will put you in your grave.
Yeah.
So it's the stomach. It's the stomach that we're just a breed.
Yep.
Not the best breed, just a breed.
A breed. I like that.
It's a particular breed.
I like that a lot. So then I guess what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs? Because I guess one of the things with, my audience that watches this, I will hope that at some point, seems like to the extent that they fall within that category or are part of that breed, to kind of really jump into the entrepreneurship route and with a level of confidence and comfortability and knowledge that they can be successful with it by watching others who, they may have came from a different industry or knew nothing about it, but still took that leap of faith and kind of jumped into it and it worked out for them. So I guess what advice would you give to those who are aspiring to be entrepreneurs?
If you're aspiring to be an entrepreneur, all I give the same advice every time, to please get out of your head and take actions toward the goal.
I like that. I'm about that action. I like that.
You cannot think it through in your head. And I promise you, this one, people may roll their eyes, but I swear by it. Whatever you're into, God, the universe, however you want to put it. When you start, not in your head, but when you start taking the steps, the answers and the solutions and the money and the miracles begin to happen, right? You may have thought it was this. Okay, a prime example. Next was supposed to be for kids. I was in the kid market, right? I have that product for headlights. That's the first kid products that I launched. 10 years later, because the opportunity came for adults. The opportunity came for licensing on college campuses. Then headlights took over. So for me, I see where the opportunity is, and that's where I'm going in where I'm fitting in.
Yep.
And then because kids aren't going anywhere. I can always circle back I did, right? But you don't get those answers unless you start doing it. You nothing will come to you. Just you'll talk yourself out of it. You'll talk problems into your head that don't even exist.
Don't exist. Yeah.
Right? So all I say is every day, your assignment is it could be a telephone call. It could be figuring out every day. You have to make a step toward that goal, and you will be surprised where you end up in a month. It's just like exercising or losing weight. Yep. I mean, you can think about it all day long, but if you don't get out and move that body, nothing is happening.
Nothing is happening.
Yeah.
I like that. And that's actually a book I had read. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, called The Alchemist, where it talks about pretty much when you start kind of doing things and kind of going towards the path, the universe or the world or whatever start to kind of
crazy.
It's conspire to kind of things start falling in your place.
Who you will meet. I mean, who wants to help you? You can't. Yep. I say all the time, how I have come this far is ain't no way without some miracles. God, I'm telling you, yep. Especially bootstrapping and not knowing. No, you got to do it.
I like that. You have to do it. Take that action. I like that. I guess the last thing I'll try to get you out of here on, and as we come up on an hour here, is I guess, how can people follow you? How can people stay in contact with you, or just whether it's social media?
Please follow me. So on Insta, Raquel S. Graham.
Okay.
S. Don't forget the S. I think I might be under Innovation Maven too. That's where more action happens, and we're redeveloping the Rock Innovation site, so that's not as exciting. Okay. And then we're branching on so I'm really about to dive very heavily into social media. I'm very much behind there, but we're going on TikTok. Yeah. And I am, and follow, because I am going to launch this course, which will be, you'll be very happy with it, because I want this information out. And if you're really serious about learning and getting your product out, I can't think of a competitor really that's going to give you the information. I literally, tonight, I have 2 friends that sent me, they referred me to their friends because they're in the middle of stuff. So I'm going to evaluate. Like, I love to do it, right? Yeah. Evaluate.
Still, you have a passion
for them a factory, which will save them 3 or 4 years of stress from getting knocked off or whatever. You know what I mean? They're just ways to do this.
Yep.
And then, and then I'll circle back to you, because when I'm going to do it, then I'll ask you to announce it or send to your base or whatever.
Absolutely, for sure. And to the extent that, I guess, just at least on the IP side of things, if anything I can do in terms of giving information, please don't hesitate to reach out, because I think that
we're going to be in contact. Yeah. I'm running out the door as soon as I get off, because I have that appointment, but we'll circle back for sure. I'll circle back to you. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. No, nice. Yeah, the IP stuff is important, and definitely want people, to the extent they're looking to build a brand and a business, to, really protect the IP. So I'm definitely glad that we've had a chance to finally talk about things. Audience, as you can tell, her story is amazing, and hey, she's just getting started. So definitely go check out her social media. Go follow
Raquel S. Graham. S. Don't forget the S, like Simone. That's what it stands for. So Raquel S. Graham.
Okay, and then what is Rock hyphen? It seems like innovation.com if they wanted to order one of the products from
rockinnovation.com. So just for you to remember, Rock is my nickname. That's what everyone calls me. So that's why it's Rock Innovation.
Nice. And then with the future products, I know you were talking about the ultrasonic mop. Would all that stuff be featured on Rock Innovation, or would that be?
Yeah, So everything's going to be under that umbrella of Rock Innovation. Yep. That's the way we have it structured now, because I try to, each one being its own. That's a whole nother. Yeah, absolutely. So you'll be able to find,
Okay. No, I definitely will. Audience, that concludes this one. Go check her out, and until the next one, take care.
Thank you.